There we go.
We're on.
We are on. We are live.
This is the New Consciousness Now podcast with Gale Wulff and Dr. J. Uecker.
Dr. J. Uecker in the house.
And thought we wanted to talk about, just to start the conversation off, like I said, it could go anywhere it needs to go, but flat Earth as a conversation starter.
Flat Earth. Yeah. Like, who doesn't want to start conversation with talking about flat Earth?
Well, lots of people probably. This is one of those things. This is one of those things where, like a lot of things, like I'm a kind of person that, like when I was in chiropractic school, we had a technique class. This is at Northwestern College of Chiropractic in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a fairly, kind of a medically oriented chiropractic school, I guess. And we had a technique class there.
Sure.
And the teacher sort of like showed us like, okay, here are some of the techniques that are like acceptable, scientifically, whatever, rigorous or whatever. And here's some techniques that are like, I don't know. And then just for fun, we'll show you some techniques that are like totally on the fringe, off the wall, that no self-respecting chiropractor or patient would ever allow themselves to entertain. And one of those was network chiropractic.
Sure.
And they showed us a video of this guy who it was in someone's garage, kind of a poor video quality video of this guy working on someone in his garage. The doctor, had a cheesy 80s jumpsuit on, kind of like workout suit.
Sweet.
And the guy he was working on was like writhing around on the table, in a apparent state of bliss, as the guy in the jumpsuit, the guy in the workout suit, was, like waving his hand above his bodies and like sewing things in midair, totally. Most people in the class, I think, were like, well, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But I, though, on the other hand, was like, that's
what is this?
What is going on there? Like, is the guy totally making it up? It like piqued my interest,
Sure.
So I guess, I think, well, that can't be, it's just what's going on. They're just making this up. This is just totally an act. There's got to be something to this,
Right. Why would the guy be moving around the table like that?
They're just totally making this up. Is that what's going on? Yeah, it's weird, but, there must be something to it. So, I was curious. And then, so I ended up getting into that and, changed my life. And,
Sure.
changed other people's lives through me on some level, all the people that I've gotten to work with and help through the years. But so, I'm kind of like of the mind, there are certain things like that. Well, people mention there's a whole bunch of people out there who are convinced that the earth is flat. And they have a whole, science. They're serious. They investigate it and spend lots of time thinking about it. And, there's a community of people who think there's a flat earth, and a lot of people would be like, why would anyone even waste a moment thinking about whether or not the earth is flat? Because obviously we know that the earth is not flat. Because this, because of this or because of that. But these people have reasons why all those things are not valid. But, so there's, as opposed to just going like, what? That's totally, totally, totally ridiculous. I feel like sometimes I go, well, let me consider some of those reasons that people say it's flat.
Sure.
Let me think
Why
about
not?
that. Is that why
Yeah.
not think about that? Is that what I'm not don't feel like I need to defend a round earth. So let me think about that. It's interesting.
It is an interesting to think about. I'll start off by saying with all this that I had no idea that flat Earth people existed until about 2 years ago, when my sister, she's a high school science teacher at a Montessori school, or I should say she was a science teacher at a Montessori school in Las Vegas, Nevada. And she was teaching in her science class about something about the Earth. And she had some angry parents come in and have a conversation with she and the principal, and saying that they needed to revise their curriculum because it was wrong, that the Earth is actually flat and not round. And
Wow.
they want their children to be taught the correct way.
Wow.
And the principal and my sister were both like,
wow.
What do we do with this? I think they're both caught a little bit off guard.
What do we do with this? Yeah.
And so they're like, well, we're teaching that the Earth is round. We're teaching, I think they were politely told, no.
Yeah. Right.
This is how we teach this. This is what science has proven, or these whatever has proven, right?
Right.
And so they didn't go forward with that. But my sister relayed that story to me, and I was really just kind of taken aback for a moment when I first heard that. And I thought, well, how did that miss for some people? How is that even there?
Right. How are they even considering that?
And I don't know all the arguments that they have, but I know, for me, for example, I've been in an airplane at 30 some thousand feet especially when I flew from India down, when we flew over the North Pole down into the United States. And I'll never forget that flight, because it was yeah, I mean, and that's a route that I never would have figured, but that's the route that we took. And I remember staring out the window from that flight, and this is when it really landed for me, was that I was looking out, and you could see the curvature of the Earth. I could see the roundness and the spherical shape, and I knew that I was only seeing a small sliver of something that was much larger. But knowing what I know of certain shapes, it's like it just made sense that shape would continue to go beyond what I could see. And that told me, well, clearly we're riding around on a ball here.
Right.
But I don't know what their argument is, or what they found these principles on. But it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing to contemplate. Very interesting thing.
I've done the same after. So like, these people will say that actually you don't see the curvature of the Earth. That actually you won't see the curvature of the Earth.
Okay.
If you say you have, I can't even remember now. Like I've tried to experiment myself, like going up in a plane and seeing like, can I actually see the curvature of the Earth? I think like I've shown myself that I can't, but I can't remember, to be honest. I'd have to do it again.
Oh, okay.
It seems like there'd be like an easy, there's all sorts of different ways to sort of prove it. And one of the things that seems to make sense to me is they talk about how if the Earth is curved, I think they say that if you're standing at a point on the ball Earth, that every 100 miles, the Earth would drop away by 6,000 feet, I think, is what they say.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The Earth
Okay,
would drop
sure.
away. So you should be able to. You should be able to. You should be able to. So if you look at something that's, say, 6,000 feet high, or less, from 100 miles away, you shouldn't be able to see it because it should be sort of like dropped off the edge of the earth and you can't see it. But they claim that these flat earthers do these experiments where they like get like a really powerful telescope or a laser or something like that, and shine it or look across the space, and they always say, no, you can still see it. You can see it as if it's on a flat earth. So I don't know. Seems it would be simple enough
That's
to prove.
Interesting.
Seems it would be simple enough to prove, and that like scientists would go, no, that they would do their own experiment and show you like, no, that's ridiculous. No, see, you can't see it from 100 miles away because it's dropped off the edge of the earth. But they don't. It's kind of like, what's weird to me is like, no, they don't. Like, scientists don't really do that. They don't do it kind of seems like they don't really do that. Sure. Maybe they just is like, I don't even want to waste. Maybe they're just like, I don't even want to waste my time with this ridiculous flat earth thing. But
I'll be honest with you.
Why.
There's a part of me that's what I did with it. Like, I heard about that and I thought, like, I wouldn't even entertain a conversation with an idiot like this. That's just where I went inside with it all. Like just totally disregarding this 100%. And I'm like, no, like that's just a given. But the interesting subtext here to me is the things in life that we do just kind of take as a given because it's just what I was taught. It's just what has always been there. And of course science has proved this, or of course science has proved that, or of course this has been looked at in depth and considered and proven wrong, or
all the things that we don't actually all the things that we don't
all these things that are just
all the things that you don't actually look at for yourself. I mean, there are just so many things that you like you said, take for granted, that you don't actually look at for yourself, or don't have the opportunity to, maybe, but you just don't look at for ourselves. Just must be around because like flat earthers say that there is not one, if you Google that, there's not one sort of untouched picture from space of Earth and things like that. Anyway, that's what they're saying. They're saying we're being just fed all of our information comes from the media. No one can actually, people aren't verifying this for themselves. Anyway.
Well, yeah, totally. And I know that's a whole conversation in itself with the media and whatever, but then there's also the part too where, and this is where I think it gets interesting, is where you kind of pick which hole do you want to dig, or which can of worms do you want to dive into? Because like at some point, like we stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before us, or we tend to trust certain things that are time worn or have been around for a while or been challenged over and over and continually been proven wrong or whatever. But who's to say? Who's to say the Earth is not flat? I mean, besides 7.5 billion people, but it's that's just because it's what they've been told. So I don't know. I don't know, quite honestly.
Yeah, and if it's like we each kind of have our own. What's the thing that you're drawn towards? The thing that you're drawn towards doing, your purpose that you're drawn towards on the planet. And do I feel like my purpose is to prove that the Earth is actually flat? No, I don't. It's interesting, but I don't. But those people that were talking to your sister, they felt like that's my purpose, is to like set this straight.
It was a very, very strong calling for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was referring to when I say, you kind of got to pick which hole you want to dig or which well you want to dig. And is that, it's like, what are you doing here? What are you driven to do? What's your purpose? What's your focus? What drives you? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And proving that the earth is round is not one of them. But the thing is, I've adopted that belief system because it works for me. It works for everybody else. Right. I think it's my assumption that it works for people. It's, but again, it brings up an interesting conversation of, well, what else are we just taking for granted or listening to that is not true? I think that is the really interesting point in all this is like, what have we been fed that's not true? Or what have we spent our lifetimes believing now currently that isn't true? For example, is Newton and hitting head with the apple and saying, hey, there's something that made that apple fall out of the tree, and all of a sudden there's gravity and some understanding therein of it, and he comes up with his computations, which when you get into the deeper physics of things, Newton actually did not do it accurately. Like there's certain physics apply to this world right now, but when you get extremely large or extremely small, the physics change. So it's not his, like what he came up with is not necessarily a law, but I spent my lifetime believing it. So how many other things are there out there do we take for granted that may not be true? I think this is what's really,
you should
really
say that because gravity is one of the things that flat earthers don't they say is not real, doesn't exist. Gravity.
Oh. What okay, well, I'll bite. What happens then when you let go of something out of your hand and it falls to the ground? What creates that?
They say that it's what kind of creates that force is density. That just like a feather will float in the air, something or we just know that things that are less dense rise to the top.
Yeah.
Things that are more dense fall to the bottom. That somehow it's about density. Yeah, I'm not an expert on all the reasons why myself, but
well, this is certainly an interesting perspective.
Right.
It has to do with density and well, density and attraction. Then would it be density and attraction? Like what attracts?
Yeah, they're just saying just density. Like again, the fact that things that are lighter rise to the top, the things that are denser fall down. But it's true. Like what creates that phenomenon? It feels like gravity still kind of applies. I always thought that maybe one of the reasons why, if we live on a curved Earth, and if, as the flat earthers say, that you can look across the supposedly flat Earth and see something off in the distance that you shouldn't be able to see because it should be dropped down over the horizon. That I wonder if it's because gravity bends light. Like you could see something. We could see something that looks like it's straight ahead. That's right in front of us. If it was far enough away, gravity would sort of bend light around the earth, and we follow the trajectory of that bent light.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because there's truth in that. At least my brother believes that there is, because my brother he's got
like a
his
rocket scientist, isn't he?
Oh, that's his wife.
Oh, okay. His wife's a rocket scientist.
Yeah, literally, like she's got her master's in jet propulsion. She is literally a rocket
These would be the people to
scientist.
talk to. Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, he's got his doctorate from Duke in mechanical engineering, and he did an experiment for his senior thesis, where he took a laser beam and shot it through a series of mirrors, and then caused that laser beam to split. And he was able to essentially suspend a single molecule in the air through the gravitational force of the light itself.
Gravitational force of the light itself?
And I don't... Whoa. The gravity of the light itself.
Whoa.
And so, like, I believe one of the discoveries, or whatever it was, is that frequency or something has a gravitational pull, or has a attractor, or something.
Well, mass has a gravity. I mean, it's like, the Earth. You have the Earth, and it has gravity supposedly, but like a baseball is supposed to have some gravity. A marble is supposed to have gravity. So
sure, playing Little League, I wish those baseballs had more gravity. My mitt, but,
right.
I could have attracted that little more often.
It's like a really little thing,
but
a really small thing, like an atom or whatever, has gravity.
Has gravity, has mass.
Yeah, I think we're kind of talking over each other's heads here.
I'm no expert in these things, and
yes, we've gone.
Yeah, I honestly
gone out of our wheelhouse.
Yeah, this is definitely a wheelhouse whatsoever. But I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting that there are, I don't know. I guess there's a part of me that's now thinking too, in terms of like, how many tribes are there out there that we haven't discovered yet? Like populations of people that we don't know exist on this planet.
Right.
And I think I read somewhere that they believe they've found everyone, or something like that. But, but I don't know. Do we really know that?
Or animal species, or the ocean. The ocean is like, however they say, what percentage of the ocean has been explored? Like a very, very small percentage.
Very small percentage. They're saying we know
7%
more about,
or something like that.
More about outer space than we do about our own oceans.
Well, the same people that you and I say, well, that's ridiculous, flat Earth. That's ridiculous, but lots of people would say, like what I do for a living, like how I can sort of I can connect with the river of chi in me and a person, and I can feel this sort of flow, and I can feel where the blockages are in the river of chi, and by moving my hands in a certain way above the body sometimes, or on the body, that those boulders in the river of chi resolve, and it like changes a person's life somehow. It has a physical, there's an actual measurable physical effect, in people's posture and the tension. Like, people who don't have that experience are like, well, whatever, like that's so far out there. Or, like what you do when you connect with your spirit guides, or your guides, or what do we call them? What do we call when you channel? Well, who are you connecting with?
Well, my understanding of it,
like guides,
it changes depending on I use the word guides
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
And it's changed. It's not always the same. I'd say it's more of a group because they always refer to themselves as we.
We, sure.
And there is always a contingency. The we is always a contingency of whoever it is that will ever hear the channeling, along with the guides to bring the energy into a focal point. And there's also
it's more like a
different
field
set
of
of guides.
intelligence.
Like I've got a white one. There's a field of intelligence, a field of consciousness. And a lot of the consciousness that comes through is from the collective consciousness of humanity.
Right.
But the focal point of the message itself, like what narrows that band of information, is the people who are watching it. It's like the things that we're saying right now, like right now it's May of 2020, and so right now this is our right now moment. And at some point, in September of 2020, somebody may be listening to this, and right now this is their now moment. And their now moment is quantumly affecting the information that comes through in our now moment. So it's like whoever ever witnesses this podcast is also a part of it.
Oh, or who has witnessed. Is it somehow this podcast reach into the past somehow too?
Yes.
My point was like you have a direct experience of this. Like you have a direct experience of this when you're channeling. But if you try to explain that to people, like whatever, some people would be like, whatever.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah.
But you have a direct experience of it.
And that's exactly it. And for me, it's like I look at someone and I can see, oh, you've got this intuitive gift and that intuitive gift and blah, blah, blah. And actually these thoughts that you think are logical thoughts in your mind are actually your intuition telling you certain things from another lifetime. I could see these things and bring them forward. For me, it's clear as day. And for some people, I'll be able to say that to them and they'll go, oh, I get that. And other people have no ability to connect with that at all. And so it's like, what are we ready to accept, or what can we touch with our senses, and what can we lean into with our trust and put our faith in? Like, to me, those things really define who and what we are. Is that for any growth to happen, for any growth of any nature, there's got to be at some point a leap of faith or a leap of trust.
Got to relax the previous boundary that you had somehow on your thoughts and what you will accept. You have to relax that somehow. Yeah,
and just let the notion of something else come in. And to me, that's healthy process. That's healthy living, to look at something and question it, and do your own exploration into it and whatever else, and see what you find with it. And if you find something contrary, then explore more if you want. And if you like, I think this is good, I'm good with it. It's like some people are cool growing up in a family and being taught a certain religion, and they're like, well, that's just what God is all about, and that's what I believe, and I will never challenge that. Other people grow up and have a certain religion, and they're like, well, that doesn't fit. That doesn't feel right to me. And then they challenge it and find out something for themselves. I just...
what do you think?
It's interesting.
You think there's something that prompts that change? Like, I think consciousness, is unfolding, is evolving, and that kind of prompts us to change.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And the big question mark is, because everyone wants to know points of origin and how this all works and this and that. It's like, consciousness is Actually, I've got a pretty interesting definition of consciousness that came through just the other night, actually, on Wednesday night's channeling.
All right.
Was that consciousness is a person's ability to be present through varying conditions of their own internal landscape. And what this was, you know, like lately there's just been a lot of ups and downs going on with people where things are high, things are low, you know, there's a lot of variables in between. And what they were saying was that a person's capacity to be fully present in the highest of highs and flow and remain present during the complete transition from going from a very high to a very low and being able to remain present there and then ride that back up whenever it moves back up and just have the presence there all the time.
Right.
And that a person's capacity to be awake and aware and present through that range is a person's consciousness. Which I thought was pretty fascinating.
You mean like level of consciousness, or like how conscious they are, or?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Right. How connected are you to consciousness? Because consciousness is in all of the ups and the downs. What's your capacity to stay connected to the larger consciousness and not be rocked by the smaller ups and downs?
Yeah. And you think of, you know, and I think of, I don't know, for measurements for people or whatever, and I think, well, okay, if this person is obtuse or they can't seem to see something or they can't seem to, I don't know, you know, just certain people you just say, that person's just got low consciousness. You know, like driving down the road and somebody's, I don't know, throwing trash out the window, or, but I guess that's more like values, I suppose. But, I don't know, it's just having judgments against other people for whatever things that we say, well, that's just low consciousness or that's high consciousness.
Right.
And the actions that they have is, you know, what we attribute that to, or sometimes the things that they say, where if someone's being judgmental or something, which honestly, here I am talking about being judgmental and then saying, well, if someone judges, they've got low consciousness.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, I think I maybe know what you're getting at. Like how do you like point out, you know, levels of discernment or whatever without being judgmental? Like, how do I, like with my family or something, like, you know, I could look through the lens of like, yes, I grew up in this conservative Christian family, and they have this whole idea about reality and who God is and who we are in relationship to God. And you know, and I could sort of, I do often, you know, admittedly sort of think that I have a more evolved, more inclusive, more evolved view of reality. But like, how do you do that and sort of like not be judgmental of their view? You know, just never talk about these
What's
things.
Interesting. No, actually, I'll tell you what. And here's the thing: it's like I believe we're on the right track with this, because in order now, this is just spinning off of what came through the other night, is that the ability to be with all those different states of awareness as you're going up and down. In order to flow through those different states, you have to have no judgment in order to move from one state to the next. Judgment is what holds us stagnant and holds us in place. And so if we're saying, that person is bad or lower or whatever, for whatever reason there's a judgment or an assessment in the middle of that, right? And that says I am not like that person, because I've just created an awareness in me that says I'm better or I'm different.
Right.
I've created a separation. But the key is to have acceptance through all things, and have no judgment. And that's what allows us to meld with that person or meld with what's going on. But I think that for some people, the fear becomes, if I meld with this person, or if I meld with this situation, I will lose myself to this situation, because situations such as these have caused me harm in the past, or I've lost myself to this situation in the past. And so we draw these blocks and say no to it or judge it.
What does melding with that mean? Does that mean just sort of like really putting yourself in their shoes and sort of like understanding, their perspective from their perspective? Like becoming them in a way, seeing through their eyes or the lens that they look through?
Yeah.
Did you get my question?
Yeah, I did. And
what does melding with them? What does melding with them mean? What is that?
Well, it's like not making them wrong for it. It's like, God, I saw this great quote the other day. I think it was on Facebook or something like that. Maybe it was. I'm pretty sure it was Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But it was, unconditional love is seeing someone and accepting them completely for who they are. And self-love is determining how much distance or how close you can be to that.
Can you say that again?
And so it's like unconditional love is fully accepting a person for the way they are and the way they choose to express themselves. And self-love is determining how close you allow yourself to be with that person. So it's like, to me, it's like how to me melding would be, how close can you be with someone without losing your own self, or without losing, without sacrificing or losing your own internal integrity, which is different for every person.
Yeah, that's probably a very sort of maybe volatile, tricky edge for most humans.
Yeah.
To sort of not lose yourself, but still
stay integrous. And I equate this to being, and here's where to me, this is where it really gets juicy, is I equate this to people who are empathic, because I work with a lot of people who are empathic that, and empathic to the point where it's a detriment, or it's almost a challenge, because there are a lot of people in this world who are really empathic. And by empathic, I mean intuitively feeling other people's emotions, intuitively taking on people's thoughts, taking on energies from different areas of the ground or areas that they stand in, like a grocery store or a concert or something. And you walk away from being in that area or with a person or a situation, and you can still feel them throughout the day. And you like take the energy on, you can't quite shake it. And it influences how you think and how you respond after being subjected to that. And to me, empathy and being empathic, you take all that on, or you can take all that on. And I believe we all do this to an extent. But one of the keys is to not shut it off, but learn how to work with it and determine what you let in and what you don't let in, because you need or desire to function in the world in a certain way. And so figuring out ways to clear and cleanse your energy, or energetically protect yourself, or protect the parts of yourself that you feel vulnerable in, so you can essentially be in the presence with the person and meld with them to a certain depth that feels comfortable for you. That would be that's the healthy way to meld, or would be a
Right.
healthy presencing with someone.
Right. Seems like that just takes like a great awareness on a very fine scale. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people out there who don't, they are empaths and can't take care of themselves, can't honor themselves, like habitually because of trauma or just things that we picked up when we were, in the womb, or kids, ways of being that we just learned through entraining to the people around us when we were in the womb, or when we were a kid, and
that have a hard time.
It's like there's a hole in just like a gap or whatever in awareness, and so you don't know where you end and where they begin, and how to draw boundary. Would you consider yourself, you know what, this is interesting, this is the subject of empaths. That I, for a while there, I was kind of like, well, I was being judgmental. I was making a judgment about empaths. I was kind of feeling like empaths, that they were, it's like maybe people take on a pathologize, like I'm an empath and I have trouble. I mean, I've worked with people who say that they're empaths and, they have trouble taking on other people's energy. But on some level, I feel like can I finish my thought? Some level, I feel like it's not someone else's energy. It's just like the meaning that we put on it when it enters our system. But maybe, I don't know, maybe, and I was kind of saying in that way, this sort of empath thing is not really real, but maybe I'm not an empath. Maybe I don't know what it's like to sort of like know what someone else is thinking or feel whatever someone else is feeling and not be able to sort of control it.
Sure. Okay. I know I grew up as an empath, actually. And so I spent a lot of my time just giving my power to everybody all the time, because like I would feel the person and be like if someone would enter the room and say, oh, I can feel that they're sad. And I don't want that person to feel sad. So I'm going to do everything I can to not feel that person's sadness, because it feels terrible. And as I've worked with this over the years, I've got to the point where I'm like, okay, your sadness is your sadness. I'm not going to take it on. And I figured out how to not navigate that way. And most empaths, when it comes down to it, have a hard time making boundaries in the world. And so because of abuse, or because of maybe off the charts intuition that they just don't know is intuition, all kinds of things. But most people have never spent enough time in their own bodies to know what their energy feels like versus somebody else's energy. And that's the greatest distinguishing point for an empath, is that, most empaths that find themselves wanting to heal first just want to be able to feel stable in their own lives, and have a degree of continuity between when they are alone and when they're with other people. And they can't seem to find that. So they find themselves reclusing and bowing out of situations that they would otherwise enjoy being in, because they simply just can't be in that energy or with certain people. And so they find themselves just having this desire, but this sense of powerlessness to do anything about it. And this is what I based a complete year-long curriculum on this, to be honest with you. And so
when you feel like ready, I have a question for you when you feel ready.
Oh, okay. All I was going to say was like that. Don't haven't felt enough of their own autonomy inside
Mm-hmm.
to know what their essence feels like. And then they but once a person does, then they've got something they say, this is what I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can start distinguishing between this is me, and then that's someone else's
Right.
energy, that's somebody
Right.
else's frequency and whatever. So
okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's my question is like, how do you know when you, like the example that you said, like you feel someone else's sadness, like how do you know that it's their sadness and not sort of like lighting up sadness that's in you at the same time? Like, how do you know it's not like our sadness? Like, it's interesting to me, this sort of distinction between, that's theirs and not mine. And, it's theirs and not mine. And
Sure.
I don't want to take on theirs or whatever. Like, I guess I don't have that. Maybe I just don't understand because I don't have that experience. Like, I feel like maybe it's our sadness. If sadness, something in them lights up, I feel like it's lighting up some part of me, and that it's our sadness. How do you know? How do you know that it's theirs and not yours, actually? I mean, we talk about this thing, this idea of like, if you're how we project, if there's unconscious stuff in us and how we project into the external world, and the world is always like mirroring to us.
Sure.
What is unconscious in us. And that, if it's unconscious, you'll tend to be like, oh, that person, that angry, whatever idiot, when actually they're just lighting up an angry idiot part of yourself that you've been pushing away, and so we're not conscious of it in us. And so we push them away because we think it's them, when actually we got our own angry idiot part that we're not aware of.
That's right.
So how do you know it's that? How do you know it's their stuff and not my stuff that I'm not conscious of?
It's like, okay, for me, and here's the example that's coming to mind that I can relate to, that I can relate, is that if you're ever grieving like a relationship or a person, or you're starting to feel, like, so if you're grieving something and you're crying, when I say like that, when you're sad and you're crying, the hot tears that just seem to just fall out of your face, and you
Mm-hmm.
just feel really connected to the tears,
Mm-hmm.
versus you just kind of feel like you're stuck in your own thoughts and you're crying about what you're thinking about. Do you know the difference of what I'm referring to? Where it's like,
I know,
or,
like
or
grief
the
or
difference
tears.
the difference between like an authentic belly laugh versus a
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like the most authentic stuff comes from inside of us. And this is something I got actually from Donnie Epstein, was that the average human emotion, if you're really purging emotion, it only lasts between 30 seconds and a few minutes.
Right.
And then once it's moved, it's moved. But if it continues and drags on longer, you're either enmeshed with somebody else's feelings, or you're stuck in a story, and a story is what you're processing, the energy of the story. Because there's like there is a certain, it's like, the energy of experience always stays in our cells, right? Our cells are like little batteries holding a charge or a frequency. And then, when you connect with that cell packet that's holding the memory of your dog passing away when you're 8 years old or something, when you touch into that, like that sadness wells up, and it's like, once you authentically touch that, you purge it, or you shed those tears that are just very raw, very real, and it just kind of flows out, versus I'm going to kind of conjure the feelings to make them come out. And the difference then is like, when it comes to somebody else's feelings, they have a certain level of ungroundedness to them, or and I definitely agree with you too. Like being with people sometimes, being with certain people evokes certain energies within us. I think when we all have different frequencies and vibrations going on, and when we get near somebody, sometimes those yeah, yeah, I've definitely gone down that road a few different times with what this is and how it breaks down, and it's a slippery slope. It's kind of hard to describe, the emotional realm, or what goes on inside.
Like kind of like the way I thinking about it is that, like, was with your sister, and her husband or her partner asked me what my relationship with, or who's my God. And in the moment, I just felt like it's kind of an interesting moment. In the moment, I feel like I'm experiencing everything through this lens here.
Yeah, your body.
And like everything is coming in at me. Everything from outside is coming in at me. And it goes through and there are certain filters that are created in my body. And, I put meaning on the information that comes in. Like, I feel like it's hard or impossible to be able to actually make the judgment that I'm feeling someone else's energy. I'm feeling this is someone else's emotion. It's like, I feel like I don't actually know that. Like, it's all hitting here. I'm experiencing it here. I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly either. I've struggled with this.
Sure. I wonder. Okay, so
And then, so
if
like my sense, my if I sort of feel my, I guess my go-to thing would be to take not saying that people aren't taking responsibility, but that I would then take responsibility for what I feel. This person it's hitting me a certain way, and I want to take responsibility for what I feel in their presence, as opposed to saying,
yeah,
this is your sadness or this is your anger. You know, as opposed to that being like, yeah, what's happening for you, it's bringing this up in me. It's making me sad, or it's making me angry, and I'm going to take responsibility for that.
sure. Yeah, I agree. When it turns into the blame, when that game starts getting played and there's no accountability for what they're feeling, like, and I believe there are a lot of people out there that do that. But I know, for example, like, and here's a good one is, since we've been in quarantine for 40 days now or something like that. I know 2 weeks ago or so, or well, when this whole COVID thing started, that I could feel something different in the air. Something felt different. There's a certain fear that was, and I live out in the country, but I've just been aware of a certain fear that's just kind of lightly hanging in the air
True.
everywhere.
Yes,
And,
true, right?
and so to me, an empath is someone that is aware of that fear, but then identifies with it and says that fear is affecting me. I'm taking it on, and it's not mine. And then there turns into, they take it on and own it in a certain way, whether it be conscious or unconscious. And that
Taking it on kind of sounds like a bad thing, though.
Yeah,
Are you saying it's a bad thing or not?
I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. I'm just saying there are people out there that when they wake up and they feel that in the collective, it ruins their whole day.
Because they identify with it.
Like I had come in like woman. Yeah, I've identified with it. Like I remember when there was a gal I worked with years ago doing SRI when I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And she came in and is when the forest fires were going on real heavy. And she woke up and felt really, really heavy and really, really sad. She said she didn't know why. And she turned on the news and saw that there was a bunch of forest fires going on and it was burning, and that there was sadness around the loss of the trees and everything. But she felt it before she knew what was going on. And then she came into the office later and she was still totally distraught by this. And I would define that as an empathic event of someone taking on, like having no conscious knowledge of what the news is or what's actually going on, but something in her body told her something's off, and you feel it, and here we go, we're processing this right now. Where she was feeling all of that. And one could make the argument, it's like, and this is kind of where you started with things too, it's like, well, we're all one, and whose feelings are what's really separate.
Isn't it better to not identify with it in general? Isn't that a more ideal situation to not identify with it?
For me personally, yeah. I know when I start to identify with that stuff, it takes me places I don't like to go, for sure.
So like being an empath is like maybe a tendency to sort of like identify with these things, maybe.
Yeah, it's the people that feel a lot. They identify with their feelings more than their thoughts, or identify more of their feelings than really anything else. More than their actions. Yeah, it'd be like the kind of like if you learn to look at archetypes, it'd be like the lover archetype would be all about the feelings, you know. Which to me, I'm not trying to rip on feelings. I think feelings are tremendously important, very important. But they allow us to have, you know, the sweet feelings of where the sweetness of the world comes in, really, you know.
Right.
Without feelings, how would you ever have joy, you know?
Right. Yeah, as far as an empath goes, yeah, there's something in me I'm trying to figure out. There's something in me that thinks if you claim to be an empath, that there's some responsibility that you're not taking for your experience. And I'm making a judgment. I'm trying to sort out my judgment.
Sure. Why in any
I'm trying not to be an asshole. So hard for me not to be an asshole sometimes. It feels like
some days are less asshole-ish than others. Some days it's just you can't, all you see is brown. Oh my gosh.
Got my head up my own ass.
There in any, to me, any
Speaking of which, have you ever had hemorrhoids?
Of all the things I thought were going to come out of your mouth in that moment, that was not it.
Have you ever had hemorrhoids?
I did once. I did. I have experienced that, and it's twice. I have.
I got a hemorrhoid right now.
Not a fan.
Oh my God.
Not a fan of that.
It's killing
No,
me.
those are annoying.
Anyway,
For sure.
sorry for the diversion there.
It's all
You were
right.
going to say something
Well,
really
you were talking about being
important.
an asshole earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what brought it all
Yeah.
in.
Well, I'm all about my awareness is all up in my ass right now.
All up in your ass.
To be honest, every moment my awareness is like
Right?
in my ass.
I can't get out of my own ass.
No.
That's funny, man.
You were going to say something really profound and meaningful. I'm sorry.
I don't know about that. How meaningful it was. What was I going to say about that? Oh, with empaths, to me, empathy, a degree of empathy is healthy. It's healthy. It's
Yeah.
good to be able to
Empathy. Yeah.
use your senses to know the world around you.
It's like emotional
But
intelligence.
when
It's
that
like
empathy, absolutely,
I
it's
can
great to be able
understand.
to
I can understand how
read,
you feel.
relate. Yeah,
Yeah.
just full on relating without having to hear a word.
Right.
It's like, I'm with you. Like, it
Mhm.
allows you to be present
Mhm.
with a person when you have that empathy piece that's there. It's
Mhm.
another layer or level that we can be present with
Mhm.
someone.
Mhm.
But the trouble that arises from that is when people lose themselves in that feeling and they don't have their sense of self or their own energy or essence
Mhm.
developed yet.
Mhm.
And that's when people get into trouble, and that's when people become victims of
Mhm.
their own empathy, is they have not essentially grasped their own power
Mhm.
or their own essence, their own
Yeah.
presence.
It seems mostly that the
And
word
the funny,
empath.
it's actually not funny, but
Mhm.
what's that?
That's it. I was going to say, sorry to cut you off. It seems mostly like the word, like empathy, having empathy, has like positive connotation. But it seems like empath, the word empath kind of has like a negative connotation a little bit. Like it tied up in there is this, I'm an empath. Like, I have challenges because I'm an empath.
Yeah. Yep.
Like being
Yep.
an empath is
Well,
generally
it
not
becomes
always a good thing. Like there's always like with that word empath, and if I'm an empath, like it's not all good.
it's like it got the connotation of being powerless to the surroundings. And
Yeah,
I'm an
yeah.
empath, and therefore blah blah blah.
I think we should. I don't like that. I'm just going to be judgmental and say it. I don't like that.
I don't like it either. I'll be honest. I'm totally with you. I don't care for that either. But it's like it's the current use of it, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, having lived it, been through it, and had
Right.
that experience of it, but then also spent years doing meditations and energy work and
Mm-hmm.
working on my own stuff to create my energetic boundaries and get in touch with my own essence. I learned that I don't have to give my power away
Mm-hmm.
to what I feel going on inside someone else. And I certainly don't have to succumb to their will or their desires just because they're not comfortable inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be aware of somebody else's discomfort and allow them to be in their space or allow them to be in that state without me trying to have to interact with them to fix or change it.
Mm-hmm.
To let someone wallow in their own shit, if you will, and just kind of let them have at it.
Mm-hmm.
And the empath, where that there's a problem, is when they feel like they've got to fix everything.
Right.
And it's an unconscious thing that
Mm-hmm.
bleeds them out. It's exhausting because they feel everything going on, and the subconscious go-to is, I feel this pain, I feel this going on, and I have to do something about it. I have to switch it.
Have to fix it.
So that would be, to me, that's just another aspect of it, aside from not having your own essence,
Right.
being in touch with that. But what's interesting in this is this actually does kind of tie in with where we started with the flat Earth thing, is that we're really talking about deciding and discerning who and what we are, what's important to us, and where we stand in relation to everything else. Like, what do we take on and take for granted versus who are we and what do we actually believe? Do I believe the earth is flat? Not at all. Not even a little bit. Like, there are too many photos. Like I look at the moon is round. And is that moon?
Flat earthers would have a lot to say about this, Gale.
Sure. But how does this work then? Is the moon like just facing us like a flat plate perfectly all the time as it goes around? Like, how physically?
Like a light. It's like a light source. It's like a light source.
Like a light source.
It's like a night light, according to the flat earthers. They say that that the sun and the moon are not like thousands of miles away. They're just light sources that go around this flat plate. They're light sources.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the other thing too is like, do they believe that we rotate around the sun?
No.
Oh.
No. The sun and the moon are like our overseers shining a flashlight on us, and those flashlights are just moving around this flat plate.
Interesting.
And they, deduce that through logic, I guess.
Oh.
Through what they can perceive, what they can see.
Sure. Huh. Well, it's all fascinating to me. And, and here's the thing. It's like, in my saying that's not my belief, it doesn't make any sense to me. And my senses even tell me that things are round, or spherical, I should say. And it's like, it's the same as me saying, oh, my essence, I'm in touch with my essence. I'm in touch with my own boundaries. I know my own energy.
Right.
Like, I don't the flat earth philosophy, because
doesn't
I've
resonate.
got better things to do with my time and energy than not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to spend time taking on negative Joe who walks in the room and talks. All it does just says bad things all the time.
Well, that's why I think we should ask your guides about flat earth.
Oh, flat earth and the guides. Oh, okay. Do that.
Maybe they have something to say about the other stuff that we've been talking about, because certainly we've been talking about some good stuff, purpose and empaths and all that. But if I have an opportunity, I'm going to ask them about flat earth.
All right, you got it. Let's do that.
When they say, and one of the points where they say, any other questions?
Okay.
I'm going to be like, flat earth.
Flat earth, boys and girls. What is it? I had to take that sweatshirt off. Our spherical sun starting to shine into the car a little more.
Yeah, so they say. Some people say that.
So they say.
Some people believe that bullshit.
Ridiculous.
Well, you think it's time to talk to some guides, maybe?
All right. Oh. Let's see what they got to say. Come on.
I mean, like I said, empaths, empathy, purpose, and if I get a chance, I'm going to ask them about flat earth.
Okay. All right. We'll see what these see what the menagerie has to say about this. Getting myself into a different position here. I've noticed it's weird to not cross my legs when I channel for some reason. Well, Whoa.
Strong stuff.
They do this thing. They do this thing to like warm me up. Sometimes they'll start tickling me on the inside. Just they're like we've got to loosen you up. You're too serious.
That's great.
They're literally sitting there going. They're literally sitting here like they're literally going. We got all day, but we know you don't. Like you can, just like, you know.
We're gonna give you a little shot of joy.
Okay, a little shot of joy. They're like, here you go. Your belly needs to loosen up, buddy.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Take yourself so damn seriously.
We can adequately connect with you now. You have your frequency at a reliable place. It is stabilized to where we can talk.
Excellent.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. And thank you for organizing this. It is always interesting to us to see humans endeavor into a lively conversation with speculation, ideas, some judgment, but mostly curiosity. Because ultimately, you are curious, and this is where so many of your questions have come from, and so many of your ideas in what to talk about. It is all about curiosity. It is an exploration. We always celebrate exploration. We always celebrate curiosity, as it is one of the main functions of being in a body, is you do not know it all. And yes, we highly advocate currently the perspective that consciousness is the ability to be with as many things as possible. Awareness as a human is king and queen. Awareness is everything. If you consider what awareness is, awareness can take place in your mind, in your eyes, in your skin, in your tongue, in your belly, in your body, in your senses. Awareness can happen on your energetic levels. Awareness happens everywhere within you that you can sense or process. Your ability, your awareness, I should say, is always contingent upon where you place it. In this current time, as you talk about consciousness and how it correlates to awareness and the ability to flow that awareness from one state to another, is expanding, and thus awareness is expanding, which is why you found yourselves talking about empaths, because empaths have awareness that is increased. Empaths have a capacity to have their awareness on themselves, other people, and other places all simultaneously. The adept are those who learn to handle this amount of awareness at one time. It is always through a series of trials that one must endure in order to gain the ability to have this kind of awareness. When you are speaking to an empath who is challenged by their awareness. You are talking to someone who is still developing the ability to expand their awareness to include themselves. We want to talk a bit more about this. We want to talk about the push and the pull that is currently alive on your planet, that is currently alive of your people. Awareness has expanded. Awareness has gotten greater. If you look at your computers, if you look at your internet, if you read your stories in the newspaper or watch your TVs, you have increased awareness in the form of increased information. As you are aware, this time has been called the information age. Information is abound. Information is everywhere. And when you have constant information inundating you, you have choices to make. Because when you have lots of information, you must first discern, where do you stand in relation to that information? So many like to reside where they are and go nowhere else. It's comfortable, it's familiar, and there's a level of efficiency attained in being where they are. Stagnation. This is also where and what you call judgment holds people back. It is setting apart. It is not moving forward. It is just being there. Awareness, you see, especially during this time, has been increased. So you see many things that come at you that are not familiar to you, that are out of your box, that are different and unfamiliar. Therefore, you have lots of people stretching out of their current awareness to include other awarenesses. However, some of these new awarenesses go against what they feel or what they believe. When you look at a population on your planet that looks at other people and does not move with the other people, you have a certain form of stagnation. This goes in the understanding that they have not only of the world, but more so the understanding that they have of themselves. That their understanding of themselves has stagnated and not moved from point A to point B. And there is always judgment in the middle of that, a non-acceptance of a new reality. This, as you evolve, is what you will begin to see as a more masculine principle. It is the masculine energy and the masculine frequency that picks a trajectory, that picks a frequency, and it stays there and moves in a direction or holds itself in a way. It is the feminine that moves, is the feminine that flows, is the feminine that ebbs, and is the feminine that receives. Understand something. When you have deep stagnation in a time of change, and you are residing more in a state of polarity, and your stagnation is always a masculine principle, that the only way a masculine principle or masculine energy can evolve is through death, a death and a rebirth. If you look at your planet right now and you look at what's happening, it's very masculine. You must choose a trajectory and move in that trajectory, or you must choose a stance and stand in that stance. You must be firm in what you choose. The more masculine you are, the less fluid you are. The only way to break something that is truly masculine and move it into another trajectory or cause it to change is to explode it or have it cease to exist in its current way. Where we're going with this is how humanity is evolving. This that we speak, the reason why the feminine principle and the feminine energy is so important at this time. The feminine energy, when it meets resistance or when it meets novel input or new experience, immediately flows and changes its form and changes its shape in order to adapt and to integrate or adapt and meld through. Regardless, the feminine always changes that which it observes in its entirety. Therefore, in the old energy, things had to break down to break through. In the new energy, things evolve and flow into something different. This is the introduction of the divine feminine into evolution. They are very different. As you speak of your flat earth people, you speak of a population that has been very masculine in their stance and holding themselves apart from the rest of the world. There is a certain judgment. There is a certain setting apart. There is no right in this. There is elective when it makes a decision, and the earth has made a decision, and those two decisions line up with each other. A new trajectory is formed, and evolution takes place and moves ahead. Decisions are made in that process as to what that evolution will be and how things will pan out. Those who remain rigid in the old energy as this transformation takes place will experience absolute discomfort and or breakdown until they learn to break through, or they can adopt feminine principles and learn to flow with the change and evolve. This is not to say that they are right. This is not to say that they are wrong. This is not to say that anyone is right or wrong. All we are saying is that in this new energy, in this new time, adopting a balance of fluidity and steadfastness to be fluid is a solid mix. It is what will work. It is how you transcend. It is how you are reborn into another body to extend your life. That was said incorrectly. It is how you are reborn into your own body, reborn into the same body. This is the evolutionary process. Let us illustrate. There are those of you who have been on a healing journey for some time, who have been on a healing journey for a number of years. Consider for a moment who you were 10 years ago, and now consider who you are today. Are the conversations you are having, are they the same, or are they different? Are you the same, or are you different? Many have lived a number of lifetimes in this singular lifetime. There are many of you who can barely identify with who you were even 10 years ago. This is a sign of evolution, and this is a rebirthing process of a new understanding into the same body. This is the divine feminine that enables this to occur. If you are a flea on a dog and you are running, that dog is running towards the river with the intentions to jump into it. As the flea, you have really no idea of the dog's intentions. Therefore, you have no way to decide whether or not you want to be wet or not. There are those of you on your planet right now who are totally unaware that they are the flea on the dog and that they are about to get wet. They have no choice over what is happening to them or what will happen to them because of their stagnation and because of their judgment. They will essentially be a passenger on the planet until they're able to meld with their surroundings, integrate themselves into the world and the world into themselves, and become an active participant in where humanity currently resides. The beauty of the stage of evolution that you have been through for so long has been the vast diversity of what you have experienced and what you have been able to express over the last millennia. Understand that as you evolve and as you assign yourselves to a more singular frequency, that diversity begins to dwindle as things begin to meld and become more of a singular frequency. You are losing certain diversities upon your planet. There are certain beauties that you beheld at different times throughout your history that will no longer be there. However, they will be replaced by beauties that are far grander, far deeper, and far more spectacular than what you could even expect or imagine. Thus, that which you feel you may be missing out on will not be missed whatsoever, because you'll be too busy enjoying what has emerged within you and what you see happening on your planet around you. Rebalancing the sexes, rebalancing the energies is one of the first tasks in creating a more singular frequency. You've had subjugations of the sexes flip-flop over the years, over the different cultures, and over the different time periods. The rebalancing of the sexes is perhaps one of the most challenging ones, as it engages every human on a very personal level. And it wraps itself into every relationship that you have with a member of the opposite sex. Understand that when we say that there is a masculine way of being and there is a feminine way of being, that we are not referring to the gender in which you identify. We are referring to the archetypical energies that exist within each human being. In that, there is energy and feminine and ideal state. The higher consciousness state that humanity is evolving into is a more balanced human, where there is a more balance of masculine and feminine in that human being. There is less judgment. There is less friction. There is less holding on to a current status and more of a melding. And there is also not a complete surrender to the melding, and that there is an actual holding on to when the time is right. Understand, not one is better than the other. One could not exist or function without the other. Both are necessary in order to have true balance. As the sexes, as you balance with one another and you work through your alphas and your omegas of what you have been through in your own lives and what you experience through hearing about the stories of others' lives, you will notice that compassion is what will pervade and lead this evolution. It is compassion that enables you to identify with and have relatability with the others in a way that is non-judgmental. Compassion is the perfect mix of the masculine and the feminine. As true compassion, a being holds themselves in their essence and does not waver from that, and yet allows a certain element of their being to flow with the other person. This is what you are discussing in terms of being empathic and people. Knowing where you are, knowing who you are, and identifying with that is masculine. The ability to flow and be not only with yourself, but with others is feminine. These two dance inextricably with one another continuously. There are certain allowances that we ask of some of you who are listening. Certain allowances that we are going to ask of the masculine, the males, the men who are listening. Understand, you have a feminist movement that has been springing forward for quite some time. There has been much repression and still exists much repression on your planet of the feminine. The anger you see them expressing is them reclaiming and reconsolidating themselves in their femininity. You see it as them reclaiming their power. And in truth, if you were to get into the essence of what they sense them to be doing, they will tell you themselves that they are reclaiming their power. But in truth, they are consolidating into their own essence. This is a necessary part of the healing. Be patient with them as they express this consolidating frustration and anger that they are going through. Support them in this. Allow them to have their feelings. Allow them to have their experiences of this. Do not make yourself a victim to what they may want to say or do or hold you to. This is not saying that you must essentially bow to them. Oh no. This is about balance. This is about equalization. Hold your presence in a way that you have never held your presence before, and do so with compassion. Understand that as you relax and as they relax, the masculine and feminine, the males and females, will rebalance themselves in a beautiful dance. It is an inevitability. Are there questions?
Thanks for that. Would you be willing to identify yourself?
It's something I can't pronounce.
Or could they say something about themselves for us?
We are your collective. We are your collective humanity. We are your collective consciousness. We speak on behalf of your collective. We are organizers of your human evolution revolution. We are organizers. We work with him regularly. We speak with him. We speak through him. To speak names would not help or advance anything we have to say. Some call us them. Some call us the others. When there is a name, there is an image. When there is an image, there is an other. When you identify as other, healing cannot take place. Other is always separate. Healing is always together. Healing always unifies. Ideas of other always separate. Know that you hear the voice of humanity. Know that you hear the voice of the collective. Know that you are hearing the energies and the knowings of Maitreya. These are the alignments that humanity has chosen to evolve with and through at this time. You are hearing the collective thoughts. You are hearing the current evolutionary process translated into words. You are hearing the expanded frequencies of the subtle energies that are illuminating themselves in humans across the planet. You are hearing these illuminated frequencies as they are created into words and spoken for your ears, for you to translate and integrate as you will. And as you do so, as you contemplate, as your mind goes to these places, your body and your subtle frequencies open to that which is there and available for you all to receive. The very concepts, the very ideas of which we speak at this time through these transmissions, these concepts, when brought through to a conscious mind during energies and times such as these, activate a process that was decided upon long ago. It's like a bell or whistle that goes off, that had it gone off 10 years ago, would not do the same thing as it does today. There are concepts that are coming forward now and will come forward over the time, over the near future, that will trigger responses in your body. Because when you have a new idea and you think in a new way about a certain thing, your body in this new energy recognizes it as the calling and automatically springs into new action and new thought. This is the way of it. It is automatic. All you need to do is have your awareness intact and to be present. Have the intention to grow. Have the intention to be present. Do you have more questions?
Okay. Do we live on a spherical Earth, or are we being fooled and actually live on a flat, plain Earth?
The physics of your entire reality are based upon spheres. It is all circular. You live in a fractal design. You live in a as you observe things in your 2D reality with your 2D senses, and it is the feeling and emotion and thought that is 3D. But as you observe the 2D with your eyes, it is easy to believe such things. The senses can fool you, but the nature of the reality in which you have created that you call 3D is based on spherical relating. All is spherical. The most efficient shape is the sphere. When you are not in your body, you are a sphere. Your mind creates images. Your mind creates human form, so you can relate to past ones, to ghosts, to frequencies, and to energies. To see this from where we are, we see bands of light and spheres. A sphere means that that light has its own awareness of either itself or its group. A frequency just is potential, is there, that is girthed, whatever it is observed to be. You live on a being. You live on a being that is not necessarily linear. Your earth is made linear by your ideas of earth, but it is not linear. Your earth lives in multiple dimensions all at the same time. The earth herself is a portal, a dimensional portal. You are essentially experiencing the frequencies of a dimensional portal as you are incarnated here. You yourselves adopt earthly form and become dimensional portals yourself. Your cells are dimensional portals. As you are tapping into the cells of a body, you are tapping into dimensional portals. Every cell goes to a different dimension. Every cell goes to a different frequency. As these cells band together and begin to express themselves, it creates itself into a story or a memory. Your brain translates this and gives you ideas, gives you thought. These are the ways that the world works. These are the ways in which you have created it. It is the reality in which you live in. And as we have said, there are those who choose to live in a different reality. They can choose to do that for a period of time, but the dog is still running to the river. At some point, their ideas will cease to exist or be in this plane. Do you have other questions?
No, thanks for humoring me with the flat earth question and some good stuff about empaths and stuff there. Nothing from me. If there's anything else that you have in closing, that's great. But otherwise, nope. Thank you very much.
We are more than humoring you. We are living you, and you are living us. We appreciate your willingness to segregate the elements of your being and share these segregations through your words so that others may learn about where they are segregated and realign themselves to their own greater truths. This is indeed the work that the two of you are endeavored into, which is why we choose to be with you at this time, is evolution. Earth and humanity have chosen evolution. Therefore, we exist, and therefore you have this as your purpose. This is indeed what you have chosen, because we are here. And we are here because you have chosen us, and because humanity has chosen us. And that is the only reason we are here. We are the decision of humanity to evolve, expressed in verbal form. As these messages evolve, as this energy evolves, this concept that we do not exist other than concept itself will make more sense, as we are only speaking your subconscious thoughts and knowings back to you. That is all. It is the most quantum expression you can imagine. There is no localized consciousness behind that which we speak. It is the knowing that exists in the DNA of humanity. Thank you for being here. See you all again very soon. Oh. Oh. Hi.
Hello. How did that feel?
It's happening. It was different than last week. It was definitely not raw. It was not raw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you asked that question and it was just like everything went still.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing when you asked them their name. Nothing. I'm glad they explained it though.
Well, then you started speaking in tongues or something, or some other language.
Yeah. They're saying that they did that to the tongues or the light language, where they were putting the frequency of understanding in me into what they are.
It's like a direct transfer of knowing or whatever.
Yeah, like a direct transfer of knowing. And they keep, one of the things that they've been building into me in all of this, like over the time here, has been that.
You mean during our conversation
channeling,
or in the past that you've been in contact with them?
Just over like the past few years, if you will. But they've been imbuing this concept into me that channeling doesn't really exist anymore. The idea of input from another place coming through someone and then expressing it, that it's actually, we're in a space and time right now where we are where you essentially live the channel, like you
know
are
that.
it.
Yeah,
like
right.
you live it, you just are it.
Yeah, right.
That kind of thing. With the exception of like last week, it was like I'm raw. You know, like that was like definitively I am raw.
Well, they're saying that they are us, basically. They are us. There was no separation. They are us. They are us collectively.
Yeah.
We were speaking to ourselves there. There was no other. That's why it was blank when we asked. There was no other.
Cool.
Yeah,
what's that?
That was interesting. Definitely did get some good information there about that empath thing that clarifies things for me. And just like how they sort of like broke it up into like empaths can sort of stretch their awareness across self and across others and across other places, but that maybe where they're being challenged. I thought
that was pretty interesting also.
Where they're being challenged, they're maybe what I heard anyway, where they're being challenged is they're learning to a lot of times be more aware of the self part.
Yeah. I thought that was brilliant, actually. I thought that was really, I like the way that came through.
Something else that
was pretty wise.
Right. Something else I thought was interesting. They said like losing diversity as we sort of meld, move towards oneness, and in that you lose some diversity. I was thinking of like, I don't know, animals that are like leaving the planet or whatever, but in the process you gain something more beautiful. I hadn't really thought of it that way, that as we meld more, as we move more towards oneness, there might be less diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that with people, like, of course, we are all sort of the melting pot. We're moving towards not being white or black or Japanese or whatever. We're
all kind of going
smooshing together,
getting it all mixed.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Also, that was good about, he's like, the advice for men, like, listen, don't get overwhelmed by pissed off women. Be patient, basically.
Yeah. Be patient. They got to process through what they've just been through. Yeah. I thought that was pretty good too.
Nice. Thanks, Gale.
Oh, sweet, man. Yeah, you bet, Jay. It was fun.
Anything else you have to add or anything about any of that?
No.
I guess the Earth's not flat. I think the Earth's not really flat, really, according to them. I think.
Yeah, they were like, no.
I think their answer was
they were like, no.
A sphere is good.
Yeah, that one I thought was interesting. Like, they didn't hem and haw on that one at all. They're like, no,
okay.
No. They're like, look around you.
Sure.
Which I thought was cool. They integrated the fractal consciousness.
Well, actually, that part kind of got you when you were talking. There's a few places where your sound gets robotic every once in a while, and that was one of the places. So if you could maybe say what was going on there, I didn't hear that part.
Well, they're talking about fractalized consciousness and how that which takes place on a extremely nano level takes place on an extremely macro level as well. That the principles are the same throughout. That you have universal essentially universal truth that applies throughout. And that really, if you look at the way our electrons and neutrons and photons operate and work, it's the same way as the way our planets work and go around.
Right.
And
probably
if
an atom is spherical and our cells are spherical and our eyeballs are spherical, and
they even laid it out.
Probably the Earth is spherical.
It's all spherical. I thought it was interesting too. Like the circle is the sphere is the most efficient shape. Like, it doesn't take anything to just be a sphere, and that a sphere is separate based on identification.
Say more about that. Separate based on identification.
I thought it was pretty. Yeah, they're saying like, when we're not in a body, we're floating around. We're a sphere. We're a sphere. We're a ball basically. And that when it's like, and it's our awareness of self or identification with community or a clan, or if you will, or and others. It's like it's the identification that holds separate. It's like it's consciousness itself is what holds that together. And then they're talking about how frequency, there are frequency bands that are just kind of everywhere. And they gave me this image of, when they were talking about this, they gave me this image of light bands kind of an information, like every light band is a wave of information, and that they were just everywhere, literally everywhere. And all it takes is us putting our awareness on it in order to manifest it into something else. Like we're surrounded by infinite potential all the time. And it's just how we choose to, what we choose to bring our awareness onto that manifests it or organizes it, or it just stays as potential or as frequency, unmanifested frequency. So anyway, I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, right. I wonder why, if we're a ball when we're not in these bodies, why are we not a ball? Why are these bodies not like a ball? If our consciousness is kind of spherical, or if our whatever spirit body is kind of spherical, why are these bodies not spherical?
They're saying to look at separation. To look at choice. You chose bodies because bodies are diverse. You can have different features, and every feature that is unique is diversification. You can have multitudes of different features inside of an orb, but you have to have a higher frequency in order to understand other frequencies. Your sheer density that you chose, that we've chosen to experience, dictates dictates that the orb. Oh man, you have fallen so far out of form that you have bodies. And what they're showing, I mean, it's almost insulting, to be honest with you. It's a kick in the nuts. It's like you've got a perfect orb, and it's like we've fallen so far out of integrity, we essentially just go and we found a body. Yeah, it's like a bug splattering on a windshield. Yeah, like our bodies themselves are a distortion.
Oh wow.
But yet we had to have life in these bodies, so they had to function. They couldn't just be completely random. They have to have function.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly how they showed it. It's like literally like a bug is in form, and then it hits your windshield, and now it's out of form.
Right. Oh wow.
You're in form when you're in orb, but then you just like plop out of form, and now you have a body. That's so disturbing. The way they I had a conversation with them yesterday or today. I don't remember what it was. I think it was today, where I was like, just tell me the truth all the time. Just tell me the truth. Just shoot me straight.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Like, all right, man. So here we go.
This is what we're getting. All right.
Can't take it personal.
Right.
You know?
Cool. Thanks, Gale.
There we go. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Pretty interesting stuff.
Are we shooting for Tuesday again?
Yeah, shoot for Tuesday. That sounds great. Sounds good. Right on, Jay. Thanks, man. It's a good time.
Actually, maybe stop the recording. I got to ask you a few deep things.